This is SportsRage. I'm Morency, level 2. Let's do this thing. What an insane day of sports today. Pete Carroll out in Seattle. Nick Saban steps down in Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Kawhi Leonard gets $153 million because he's played 27 games in a row. I like this. He's gotten like $450 million from him already for doing nothing. He actually plays for like a couple of months. But what are they going to do? They're screwed. What, are they going to not give it to him? Right? No, we're going to let Kawhi Leonard go. And so they were damned if they do, they were damned if they don't. But Kawhi Leonard has really, really hit Ballmer hard, bro. Like, I'm going to add it up after. I think it's up to like what do you got? You got like 250, another extension, even Paul's shaking his head right now. Seriously, think about it, Paul. Like, Kawhi's cashed in large with the Clippers, bro, for very little in return. Let's just be real. Am I wrong?
You know why I'm shaking my head? Because I could recall that, I don't know where I saw it, but he drives like a 15-year-old car, you know? So I think of this guy, all right, he's paid hundreds of millions of dollars.
Stockpiling the money somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if he's still driving this jalopy, this whatever it was. I don't know. He's frugal's the word. Yeah. Yeah, I got relatives. They say, "Oh, we didn't give you a gift. We're frugal." Yeah, okay. You're cheap.
All right. So, Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. We just had Brady Cannon on. We've had a few people on this week. We weren't on Monday because of the championship game, but like last night, people I speak to, most of the people I speak to. Shout out to everyone joining us on Sirius XM channel 159. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. This is SportsRage. I'm Gabriel Morency. The Green Bay Packers getting 7.5 points. You got Mike McCarthy taking on his former team. Packers backdoor this thing and get into the playoffs. The total's up to 51. You're a big total better, Paul. To me, I like the over this game. I think, Dallas are going to have success with CeeDee Lamb. I think that Dak will have success throwing the football in this game. And Green Bay's passing attack has really matured as the year has gone on. I think they're going to be playing from behind. And Jordan Love completions prop. He's going to throw the ball a lot in this game. What's your take on the total? Do you like a side in this game?
I do. And this game I like, and I played. And what I played relevant to the total is I played Green Bay's team total over. And you hit the nail on the head. Look, Jordan Love, over the last 8 games, and I'm sure you guys talked about it, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, and the receiving course really coming around. Wicks, I believe, in the first 8 games had 10 receptions for, I think, 140 yards. And over the last 8, he's had like 30 for 300 yards. So he's really turned around. He's gotten the offensive gear, along with Aaron Jones, who's missed some time, and I think he'll be able to run the football. But the key with Green Bay is this. I watched them against Chicago, and they did a masterful job against the Bears and Justin Fields. Justin Fields, by the way, he ran the ball 8 times for 27 yards. That was his lowest output since week 4 against the Broncos, when he ran it 4 for, I think, 25. They had him under duress almost the entire game. Now, the key with Green Bay is their run defense was a sieve at the beginning of the year. But when you assess these Packers, their defenders missed so much. For example, Jair Alexander, he missed 9 games. Campbell, who has 75 tackles, he missed 5 games. And then you had Savage at safety. He missed 7. Corey Ballantyne, who's their rookie corner, 7th-round pick. He's come around, and he's also missed 3 games. There is a host of players who they were missing throughout the year who are pretty much all back, and the only one they lost is Rudy Ford. And he is definitely a player, and he's a loss, but they've gained a lot more than they have lost in this instance, and I think that's what their defense has come together. Their offensive line has come together, and Dallas does not impress me at all. If you look at this team, and I know they're a juggernaut at home, scoring points. But who did they beat at home? They beat the Jets. They beat the Patriots.
Commanders.
They beat the Giants. They beat the Commanders. And I will tell you, the one signature win on there that I give them credit for is Dallas, because the Philly win, where they held them to 13 points, really doesn't look like much these days. So Dallas, if you look back over the last 7 games, Buffalo shredded them to the tune of 266 yards on the ground. Josh Allen only had to throw the ball 15 times. Tua had his biggest output passing-wise in the last 7 games against Dallas, 293. Goff went for 271, and Detroit was able to run the ball. You could run the ball against Dallas. I think you could throw the ball against Dallas. Dak Prescott is prone to mistake, and I believe Green Bay will eclipse that team total. And I think they're going to give Dallas a run for their money here. I think Dallas is overpriced, overhyped, and they're not nearly as good as people are giving them credit for.
You know what, guys? I've been saying it for 2 years.
Watching that game, Gabe, I've never seen a team execute 3rd and long the way the Packers did. The Bears are one of the hottest defensive teams. Love looks so comfortable there, and he's hitting guys in stride. Like, Dallas, they're one of those teams, like, they got some weakness. Like, you know what I mean? You could score on these guys, and now Jones is healthy. You talked about him, Renzi. You've been on the Packer train, and I learned, like, last week, I thought the Bears were going to beat them. Like, they were so crisp. I don't even understand how Dallas is laying 7 in the hook, to me. That line is, I'm with Paul. I think it's way out of whack. I would have made, like, 4.5, 5.
Their pass rush.
Well,
their pass rush last week was great against Fields, and Fields only threw for 148 yards, and they got the opening
but the Bears
drive.
aren't the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Let's be real. The Bears aren't the Cowboys. But I just want to bring up the Cowboys. And listen, I like the Packers, but the Cowboys have won 16 consecutive home games, okay? They haven't lost a home game in 3 years. 2 years in a row they've won at home.
They do.
By an average of 21 points a game. But I want to say, I've been saying it for a couple of years, Paul. If you look, the NFC East is like a college football conference that's not very good. And when you get them out of their conference, they get exposed. And if you look, like the Eagles and the Cowboys rack up all these wins all the time, and what happens? You just said it, Paul. What happened when Dallas and Philadelphia played against good teams? Suddenly it became a problem for them, right? Dallas lost to Miami. They lost to Buffalo. No way, but Philadelphia beat Buffalo. It was a track meet. The refs screwed the Bills late, but it is what it is. That was like the last time Philadelphia actually looked somewhat decent. I'm just stating, I'm with you. I think that the Cowboys and Eagles, and just by chance, they don't make their schedule. It's not college football. They just got easy schedules the last 2 years, you know what I mean? For the most part. That's why the Eagles were 9-1. That's why the Eagles racked up all those wins last year. And same thing with the Cowboys. And then when they play real teams, should be a fun game. All right, we'll wrap up with Paul on the other side. This is SportsRage.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
favorite. I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage, Sirius XM, Channel 159. SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks, 36-35 for the Raptors over the Clippers right now. 68-51. The Jazz are smashing the Denver Nuggets. And we've got about 30 seconds left, actually. TCU is up 80-71 on Oklahoma. We jumped in on the Horned Frogs. So that's good news. Although I did jump in on the in-game total, 153.5, and I don't think it's going to win because Oklahoma's about to tap out. So we're only going to get the split here. Paul Bovey with us just for a couple of more moments. I wanted to get to the Ram game. We were talking about the Cowboy game. I want to get to the Ram game and then the Buck game on the way out. So Rams and Lions, this is the flashiest and the sexiest one of them all. You got Matt Stafford going back to Detroit, the Detroit Lions in the playoffs for the first time in forever. And you've got just the football gods have, dealt Detroit a bad hand here, in my opinion. With Stafford coming back, you got Sean McVay. The Rams are as hot as anybody in the National Football League right now. Like, the only game they've lost in, like, the last, month and a half, basically, was that overtime game to Baltimore. And they were winning that game, and they covered the spread in that game. And it went to freaking overtime, and Lamar Jackson had to be Superman to win the game in overtime for Baltimore. Rams are a dangerous team. I think they're going to win outright, Paul. I think they're going to go in there, and they're going to pick apart that Lions defense. It's going to be a sad day for Detroit Lions fans.
Well, they weren't ultra impressive against the Giants, and they did let the Saints come back in the game. But this much I will say about Detroit. I was on Minnesota on Sunday, unfortunately. And as I said, Dan Campbell, sensible logic, that didn't factor in because he played all his starters, and they started going down like flies. As soon as Moose Johnson said, yeah, you got to play it out, you got to put all your guys in and play, boom. Laporta goes out. St. Brown goes out. And it just was one after the other. Now, Laporta may or may not play on Sunday, and these other guys ended up going back into the game. But as far as Detroit goes, I'm going to look back 8 weeks, and I'll look back as recently as Sunday with that Viking game. And Nick Mullins still went off for almost 400 yards. They had 2 offensive linemen out, scratched, before the game, and then they lose another one during the game, and they bring in a player who had not played one snap the entire year, and they still almost mustered a late drive that would have actually gotten them in under the number. It was 30-20. Mullins threw a late interception. His arm was hit, and lights out for me and my team total and the plus 3.5, unfortunately. But they did not stop Minnesota. The only team in the last 8 weeks that they really put the clamps down on were the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, who they held to 17 points and 75 yards in the first half. But even that Dallas game, you'll say, okay, the Cowboys only scored 20 points. CeeDee Lamb had 13 receptions for 227 yards. Jefferson, in these 2 games that they played against Minnesota over the last 3 weeks, went off for an obscene amount of yardage. And you look back, they gave up, 26 points and 28 points to the Bears. They gave up 28 points to New Orleans. The list goes on and on. This is not a good defensive team. And they did get back Cam Sutton, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but it didn't make much of a difference on Sunday because, like I said, Nick Mullins went off for almost 400. Earlier in the year, those 2 guys were in the lineup together, and Geno Smith had a big game. I don't think their back end is talented at all, and I think the Rams have a really good shot to get into the mid to high 20s and steal this game. Now, unlike Brady, because I know he said he liked the under, I would lean to the over here because I think the Rams are going to score points. I think the Lions at home will score points, and I think the Lions defense is, as I said, quite flawed, and they're going to have some problems here. So I already played over 50.5 and over 51. I played the Rams team total over 23.5, and that's the way I'm going to go on the game.
Those 3.5s are gone right now as well. It's 3 pretty much everywhere right now. So that hook is gone with the Detroit Lions. I was really surprised about that, and I always expected it to actually come down, and it has. And, in fact, I wouldn't be shocked if it continues to come down because I don't think too many people are going to trust the Detroit Lions outside of the Detroit area by the time we kick off on Sunday night. And then we got Monday night, which is kind of an interesting game. It's so bad it's good type of deal, right? It's like, okay, it's hard to pick. It's 2 bad teams. But, it's Monday Night Football. It's a wild card game, so there's a uniqueness to this thing. And it's crazy to put Philadelphia in that category, but the way that this team is played, people always talk about you want to be peaking at the right time. Well, Philadelphia is clearly not peaking at the right time. And I don't think there's a switch that can be flicked where it's like, oh, don't worry, now it's real, everything's going to be okay. You've got guys that are going to be retiring. There's a lot of finger pointing going on in the room. But, like, behind the scenes, there's a lot of drama. Like, they're like a band that got successful, and everyone's got attitude now, except they didn't win, right? So they kind of act like a Super Bowl winning team, yet they didn't win. And I think there's a resentment towards Hurts, how much money he gets, and how come he doesn't run more. Sirianni threw the coordinators under the bus, like, mid-season. There's a lot of bad stuff there. They're not a happy group. There's a lot of dudes that are going to be happy when the season's over on that team. But is Tampa good enough, Paul, to do anything about it? This Tampa offense has really regressed. It's never been good, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they can't score this team.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I can say with a high degree of certainty. I will not lay points with Philadelphia on the road the way they're playing. I mean, they didn't even show up for the Giants, and there was reason for them to compete early on, figuring just like Detroit that there was an opportunity that they could move up if the Cowboys lost. Detroit did compete. Philadelphia just did not. And I think they were trying early on. They just couldn't. So I would not be laying any points with Philadelphia. And if I was to go one way, I would go with Tampa. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the game. But I have to tell you, this one to me is a head scratcher. So I'm going to end up finishing where I started. I'll probably look for some kind of prop on this game. I don't have a definitive side. I don't feel like strong on the total either. So this is one where I'll probably just sit back, watch. maybe see the how the game is going, watch the ebbs and flows, and maybe digest it a little bit and play something live. But I'll probably look for some kind of a player prop here or a game prop.
Yeah, it's one of these games, like you said. The fact that it's a standalone game, there's going to be a lot of people betting it that don't want to bet it or don't really know. And like, it's going to be like, wow, yes,
I got to
take
bet Tampa Bay, Philly. Damn it! I wish this wasn't the last game.
Well, it's a playoff game, anyways, Cam. So people are going to bet it. But the fact that it's the standalone game, it really forces people to bet it even more.
Right.
It's like, wow, it's a tough game, but it's like, what do you know?
It's a weasel
game.
game.
Not bet it.
Yeah. It's a better weasel game.
It's a weasel game. Come on.
Yeah, of course it's a weasel game.
Every
game's a weasel game.
I lean with the
end
Bucks
up, you
too,
say,
plus
I'm not going to bet it. I'm not going to bet it, not going to bet it, not going to bet it. And then 2 minutes before the game, you end up betting it.
Yeah, you're right, Paul. We're betting it.
Total
What do you guys think about
44.
teasing the Bucks? I can't see Philadelphia. I can see Philadelphia winning by like 3, but they're a hard team to trust, as you guys said. Like, this game's got tight game written all over it. Tease the Bucks.
I wouldn't tease. I wouldn't tease the Bucks because it wouldn't surprise me if they lost 23-3. Like the Bucks could be in it. They can't score. Like they can't score this team. So Philadelphia is not going to need to score very many points to win this game. That's the problem. Good stuff, Paul.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. What a crazy-ass day. We've been talking about the games, NFL and stuff, but we'll get Cam's take on Pete Carroll. Nick Saban stepped down. The Kawhi Leonard, we'll get to Kawhi a little bit after in the NBA and all this drama in the NBA every damn day. But another thing that kind of, to me, how I feel, and we'll bring George Kurtz in on this, and we'll start off with this. George, when I saw that Matt Eberflus is being brought back as head coach of the Chicago Bears, it is my conclusion, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm betting this, that the Chicago Bears are trading the pick. If you don't bring, it's not like Eberflus is some genius, right? Well, we got to keep him, and we're going to get Caleb Williams, and everybody's going to be fine. No. They like what they saw down the stretch. They think they have the right coach, and I don't think you're keeping Eberflus and drafting Caleb Williams, man. Like point blank. Like it wouldn't happen. They would say, no. We're gonna bring in Williams. We're gonna get an offensive guy. We're gonna, you know what I mean? Do you agree or disagree, George? Because to me, the writing's on the wall. Justin Fields will be the quarterback of the Bears next year. They're gonna trade the pick, in my opinion. For the record, the odds are Bears minus 225 to keep the pick, plus 165. Any other team takes the first overall pick. You get every other team in the league. The field. Who's drafting first overall, George? Chicago or someone else?
Well, first off, I know people like it when you and I fight, but when I saw the news that Eberflus was staying, I thought the same exact thing. I'm like, okay, Fields is staying. Because you go with a different head coach if you want the Caleb Williams or whatever quarterback you would take at number one, you'd hire a different head coach. So, yeah, I think Fields is staying as well. I think they will trade down maybe to 2, Washington. So the Commanders get the quarterback of their choice here, maybe to 3. I don't think it'll be far because I think they want Harrison. All right, I think they want to get that main weapon for Justin Fields, which would be Marvin Harrison.
I agree.
So I don't think they'll trade down further than 3.
And it could be in Dunze, although I think it'll be Harrison still. I don't want to get carried away with that, but I'm just stating I agree with that take that they don't want to move down too far. They're not looking to move to 12 again. They're like, no. And they won't have to because the Washington Commanders are at 2. And for the record, for people out there, Caleb Williams is from Washington. And not Seattle, Washington. He's from D.C., right? So can you imagine? You get a new coach, and you get Caleb F. and Williams in Washington. George, a Cowboy fan, he's like, oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Look at George.
I'm annoyed.
Can you imagine they got Caleb Williams and Jim Harbaugh? You're going to be like, oh, God. This isn't good.
This is why I was thrilled when the Giants won on Sunday, right? Because, okay, move down the draft, buddy. You're not getting your franchise quarterback this year. Yeah, so, and Washington, let's face it, they're going to be, for all the fun we've made of them over the years, right? Snyder, the joke, he was a stadium falling apart. This is now a pretty good destination. You've got an owner with oodles of money who'll spend, and you have the number 2 pick. You and I speculated during the other break here. Maybe that's a place for Harbaugh, who could go there, money, and get McCarthy at number 2. You don't have to trade up if you want McCarthy. Right? You just take him at number 2.
And it's a sexy division for Harbaugh. Play against the Cowboys, TV, you know what I mean? Eagles, he rebuilds it, becomes a hero in Washington, gets to hang out with his brother all the time in Baltimore.
Good call, Morency.
It's
very,
right
very close.
Yeah,
The proximity of the cities.
Different conferences as well.
It actually
he's not competing with his brother.
You're right. And the best thing about Harbaugh, like the Mandelbaugh, is he's going to go, you know what? Imagine that we were down in the dumps watching the Joe franchise. Yes.
Hey, John, I'm moving down the street. I just moved into Maryland, bro. Exactly. Like, you need to be all happy. Like, I just moved to Maryland. Hey, like...
Yeah, you're right. It's like, we'll take down the Giants, we'll take down the Eagles, we'll take down the Cowboys. Like, you know Harbaugh, he loves a challenge, and everything is great point, Morency. That's the thing. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, right there.
They have young defense, flashy, traditional franchise. As George mentioned, for the record, the new owner of the Washington Commanders is the guy that owns the Philadelphia 76ers and other business interests, deep pockets, successful man, wants to win. That's why I think Washington is in play here, right? I really do. Now, the Raiders are another story. Now, for the record, of course, so Don Yee was hired to Harbaugh's agent. That's Tom Brady's agent. Tom Brady, Michigan guy. Harbaugh, Michigan guy. Brady and Harbaugh are close. Harbaugh, of course, close with Brady. Brady, a Michigan great. But Tom Brady's a minority owner of the Raiders as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to it. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Jim Harbaugh's wife is from Las Vegas. There's a lot of synergy here. And another thing is Harbaugh got to start coaching in the NFL with the Raiders. So, like, Harbaugh was an assistant with the Raiders in the early 2000s, all right, before he was the coach of the San Diego, of the college team. So, University of San Diego. So, he's got the Raiders in his blood. Al Davis loved Harbaugh. Loved him. I just read a piece the other day about this. He loved him. They knew each other. He loved him. And Al Davis told Harbaugh, you're going to be a great effing head coach one day. And, like, so imagine, George, a lot of connections here. You know what I mean? Mark Davis knows this. Harbaugh guys, too. As much as that connect, like, Harbaugh almost looks good in anything. I could totally picture Harbaugh now Washington red on the sidelines. But I can also picture Harbaugh as a Raider.
How could they afford him, though, with all the money that they're still paying Gruden?
Right.
They're still paying Gruden, McDaniels. Like that, they owe a lot of coaches doing nothing.
Mark Davis
$20 million or more.
He believes they need a marquee head coach.
Yes.
That he wants. I think Antonio Pierce stays unless Harbaugh or Belichick, by the way, wants to come there. You know, I think it'd be a big mistake. I think Davis realizes he screwed up by not hiring or not keeping Bisaccia.
And
now Pierce looks like the real dude.
He can't do it all over again.
Yeah, I can't exactly.
You might make the same mistake twice, but I can't pass up on it. If Harbaugh wants to come here and you have the money to pay him, I don't think you can pass that up.
I don't think it's crazy. Belichick's another one. Belichick won't want as much money as all these guys. I think it'll be done in New England, and Belichick's going to end up with one of these teams. I don't know what Harbaugh's going to do, though. Just because I'm a Michigan fan doesn't mean I'll know. Nobody effing knows, right?
How many years does he have, though,
he listens to offers.
Belichick?
He does every year. What's that, Cam?
How long do you think Belichick is going to coach for? And he's going to go to a winner. He doesn't have time to rebuild. He's an old man. Like he's got to go somewhere where there's a team that in place to go, okay, I can get this done in a year or two. Because he's not going to be around forever.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to win a Super Bowl, Cam, if you're Belichick. You just need to get to the damn playoffs.
Ramp up. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like,
and then
you get to the playoffs, win a game. Like, you can't go out like 2-15, bro, and scoring 6 points a game. Like, this can't end like this.
No, you're done.
You've got to pop up. Hey, I'm with the Chargers. I got Herbert. And I won 10 games. And
he's got to get away from Jones and Zappi and that organization. That ship sails. See you later.
Heard Washington guys. I've heard Washington likes Belichick too. They like the name. Some of these owners like Belichick's name, George. You know what I'm saying? It brings credibility.
It's not all about the quarterbacks of Belichick. He hasn't handed out a second contract to somebody he's drafted in like 8 years.
He's terrible.
All right, that's god awful. We can do better. All right.
And another thing is too, he's not nice to the players. So players don't want to play for him. So it's not like, especially, and another thing is on top of this is young kids don't care that you won with Tom Brady 25 years ago. They don't even know. Like, they don't know. They don't care. All they know is you're a grumpy old dude that's, like, in a bad mood every day, right? And it's true. It's true.
Really? Oh, no, he's the Earl of Cyril. You don't see Belichick smiling.
But he really is like that in real life, though. That's the problem with the team.
Yeah. Worked with New England, but
New England's not a destination. They're just not. I mean,
no.
How are you selling New England? Literally, how do you sell New England? It's not California where, the beautiful weather here. They haven't won it forever. You got a division that's tough now with really tough. Buffalo, Miami not going anywhere. So I think
you know what the problem is? You're right.
This week is when I guess Belichick will be out tomorrow.
It's hard for Boston. And let's just be real. There's a perception, too. Right? Let's just be real. A lot of African-American athletes don't want to play in Boston. Right?
Yes.
Like, they get drafted there. They're not happy about it. They don't go. Like Kawhi Leonard, a good example. The Boston Celtics offered like a ton, man, to the Spurs. And Kawhi Leonard told him, I'll retire before I play for you. He's point blank. He goes, I will not play for the Boston Celtics. There's a lot of guys. LeBron said that, right? He said, I'd rather die than play in Boston type thing. Like they won't do it. Like I'm saying.
I'd rather die.
And then you get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just randomly for some reason that Says he'd rather die than play for the Yankees. I don't know what his hatred for the Yankees is, that guy.
The Yankees screwed his old man a long time ago, and he takes it personally, the Guerrero name, right, George? That story where didn't the Yankees say something, they lied to his dad or something like that? I don't know the whole damn story. But
the Yankees too, right? Because he hated Billy Martin. Billy Martin was a jerk to Griffey when he was a kid, running around the clubhouse. He said he would never play for the Yankees. You always knew that. Listen, the Yankees over the most money. Guerrero's playing for the Yankees.
He doesn't forget.
I play for the Yankees. The stupid policy with the beard and the mustache, but you can't have that. Which is just idiotic for the Yankees to still have that policy.
You're right.
Vladimir Guerrero vowed never to play for the Dodgers, and big coincidence, he signed with the Angels. You know why? He showed up underage to one of their camps in the Dominican Republic, and he had 2 left shoes. He was so poor, he didn't have shoes. So he showed up as like a 13-year-old. He's supposed to be whatever, like 15, 16. He had 2 left shoes, and the Dodgers kind of laughed at him.
Not cool.
They told him, go home. They said, get some shoes, kid. Come back in a couple of years, all right? Like, basically, like, I guess someone there mocked him, and he told them, like, basically, I'm going to be an effing star one day, and I'll never play for you guys.
I like that.
Quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about 2 franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. We're kicking it. Cam Stewart, George Kurtz in the house. Babano's going to join us at level 3. We got Cam's golf picks for the Sony Open. Babano's NFL picks. Kurtz's NFL picks. A lot of stuff to get to. But just think about Harbaugh. I don't know what he's going to do. Nobody knows what he's going to do. I think he's going to listen to NFL offers. But how many teams really have the money? Put it this way. He's not going to Tennessee. All right? You can sort of scratch a lot of these teams off the list. He's not going to Seattle. He's not going to Tennessee. We'll get to Seattle situation in a minute. The Chargers, everyone thinks the Chargers, they don't have the money, bro. The Spanos don't want to spend $22 million a year on a head coach. And I don't think he did play for them. That was different. I get it, but I don't think it happens. We went over the Raider connections. Washington, my gut is that Washington's going to come in with a big-time deal. They're going to offer him like $25 million a year type of deal and tell him you have complete control and draft whoever the F you want to draft. Right? If you want to draft all the Michigan Wolverines, go ahead and do it. Right? Like he's going to get complete power wherever he goes. Or he goes back. And that's the whole thing. Now that Nick Saban's gone, like who's going to be the face of college football? Michigan's already like the biggest brand. Look at like the ratings of Michigan games compared to everyone else's games. Like, look at the ticket prices. I'm not just saying it's going to be Michigan, but it's just true. Like, Michigan is a massive-ass brand. Harbaugh will be the face of college football. All right? Michigan to be on TV every week. He's going to be the kingpin. Michigan to be back in the 12 teams in the playoffs next year. Michigan's going to be in the playoffs again next year. Like, you know, the cycle could continue, and he could really become a legend by winning a couple of championships. And or he tries for the daily double. I won a college championship. Now let me join Barry Switzer and Jimmy Johnson with a national championship and Super Bowls, which leads us into the Dallas Cowboys / Seattle Seahawks. So I was surprised, Cam, and Pete Carroll was surprised as well. And Pete admitted he did it in a press conference today, which was pretty impressive and pretty quick right after he just got a knife in his back. Mm-hmm. But he said that I was always under the impression that it would sort of run its own course here. In other words, my contract would be up, and then he basically said, I never imagined they would fire me or push me out the door. He basically said, I thought we were on the same page and we would sort of run its course, which means I had another year on my contract. You never sort of insinuated I wasn't coming back. Now, he was very open about everything, so that's how we know the story. And he basically said every year after the season, on the Tuesday, they have a meeting with the ownership group and management. And he said he went into the ownership meeting feeling positive about things and excited about the upcoming draft. And then he was basically told in the meeting they want to go in a different direction. And he made a point to stress that he's not burnt out and that he's not tired of coaching. So he was letting everybody know that, and somebody asked him, are you interested in all these open jobs? And he was pretty open. He said, listen, this just happened, and he was fighting back tears. This just happened, but he said, I'm looking forward to seeing what opportunities are out there right now. You're the Seahawks fan, Cam. What do you think of what happened?
Yeah, you know what? Pete Carroll winning a Super Bowl for this team, you think they can give it one more year, but there was a lot of disdain within the organization. We've always talked about this, Gabe, with Pete Carroll as a motivator, yet when the X's and O's with his staff, it just doesn't seem to be very predictable. It's almost like, I know he has the energy, he jumps around, there's a lot of things. Yes, physical. Like when you look at the guy in his 70s, I'm like, man, I wish I was that. Like I have less energy, not even 50 than Pete Carroll. But the predictability of the Seattle Seahawks and what they do, it's with the coordinator and him. I would have gave him one more year, finish out the contract and say it's time to move on, but they did this. I don't know exactly who they're going to get. They're talking about Dan Quinn. Obviously, he's been with this organization before, but I don't really want that. Defensive coordinator, Slotek, the offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans. They've mentioned, and I read a story with Harbaugh, probably not going to happen. But anyway, it's time for Pete to move on. He had a great run with Seattle, 14 great years. We got one Super Bowl, should have been at least 2. But it's time to go, Gabe. Time to go. I'm surprised they did this, though. I thought they'd let him go at the end of next year.
Very few people get to call their own shots in the NFL on the way out. We see it with great quarterbacks and even great coaches and even Belichick right now. What do you think, George, of Pete Carroll and the situation in Seattle?
I think, and this goes to Vrabel as well. What are the odds of the next coach that the Seahawks hire being better than Pete Carroll? It's not good. Not good. All right, we see it over and over again. You go through coach. The Giants go through a coach every 2 years, right? Daboll was lucky he survived this year. Every 2 years, because you fire these guys, you don't give them any kind of chances to grow. I know Carroll got the chance. He was there a long time. But the odds are your next head coach is not going to be better than Carroll. Not even going to be as good as Carroll. So that's always the danger here. I didn't understand Tennessee firing Vrabel yesterday at all. I sort of get it with Carroll. He is 72. Maybe it's time for new blood there. More whatever. I can't see more energy. I don't think anybody has more energy than even at 72 than Carroll. Without knowing if something happened that we don't know about, and I don't think anything did, I would not have made this move. I said I can't see that the next guy I'm going to hire is going to be better than Pete Carroll. I think it's a big danger here. That being said, if their thought is, the Niners aren't going anywhere, and this team with Pete is just not compete with them, so we got to take a shot with somebody else who maybe can compete. I guess I understand that thinking here, but I don't think I would have made this move. But like I said, I'm that guy who's very patient with head coaches. I mean, guys, we're all up there. We've all been around watching football since the 70s. There'd be no Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Don Shula. They never would have existed in today's game because they all would have gotten fired after 2-3 years of not being successful. And that bothers me with everybody who gets fired.
Now, one thing I'll say, a bunch of things I'll say, why Carroll ultimately it happened. The Seattle Seahawks have had great drafts over the last couple of years.
They sure have.
Now, the Seattle Seahawks, they've had great drafts over the last couple of years, but the results haven't been there on the field. They haven't had a top 20 defense in 3 years. They missed the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 years. So John Schneider, the general manager, is thinking, man, I keep knocking it out of the park every year at the draft. I keep giving you all these great players, yet we're not getting better. We're spinning our wheels. Now, we can get into the quarterback. We can get into like a couple of holes at linebacker, this and that and stuff. But I understand that perspective. Now, it gets deeper in my belief and what people are talking about. And like I said, I'm in the area is it's not Pete Carroll's fault that Jamal Adams is a jerk, all right? But Jamal Adams pushing the team, the doctor on the sidelines, then ripping the reporter's looks, the girlfriend, his girlfriend's looks online. Doing it in the room after. It went on for a little while. Now, he was finally sent home. I don't think it was from Carroll, right? Okay, so I think Carroll is such a nice guy and all this players coach that the Seahawks thought, this guy's lost control, right? You got guys pushing doctors on the sideline and the nail in the coffin. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, but a nail in the coffin. I tweeted about it earlier today. And I hope those guys are happy that thought it'd be a good idea to take a picture smoking cigars after you lost. That's like the new boat picture. For people who don't realize, I don't know if we can get it up quickly. I don't want to catch you guys off in the booth, but the Seattle Seahawks players, the defensive guys, they all took a picture together with like a game ball smoking cigars after the Cardinal game the other day, which I don't have a problem with. It was the end of the game. A lot of these guys are friends. They're not at the end of the season. They're not going to see each other again. They're going to move on, different teams, whatnot. But don't post it, right? That's like a private picture. All right, guys, let's do this last season shot together here and for friends. They post this picture of them smoking cigars like they accomplished something. Exactly. Ownership group snapped, right? They're like, what the F? And a lot of other people did. John Ryan, their former punter, a lot of former Seahawks players, a lot of people in the Seattle media, former players, were like, what the hell is going on in that room that these guys are like happy and posing for pictures after they didn't make the playoffs? And basically it was like, listen, you don't have to be crying, but it's not a good look. And they basically thought, you know what? What's going to be different next year? And I don't think any of you two can't argue there would have been. Like, if you're Seattle, you're thinking, what's going to be different in the room next year with Pete Carroll coming back? Nothing. He is who he is. He's 72. He's a nice guy. He sets a culture in the room, and it's also a culture in the room. You see it, George, with Tomlin in Pittsburgh. When you're a player's coach, there's going to be a couple of dudes that start to run over you, bro. It just happens. That's why you got to be a jerk, right? You got to be not a jerk, but like that sort of, I guess it's like being a parent. Right? If you're too nice, man, they're going to take advantage of you. And I think that's what was going on a little bit. And I think they just thought, we're going to bring them back. And what is going to change in the room? Nothing. They want a new voice in there. That's what they kept on getting back to. A new voice in the room. And Cam brought him up. I think it's going to be a slam dunk, actually. You're going to lose your defensive coordinator, Kurtz. Dan Quinn's going to be the next coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
And you want to talk about something that scares me more than Caleb Williams or McCarthy going to Washington? It's Dan Quinn leaving. All right, because the Cowboys are Dan Quinn. The Cowboys defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but they're good because they're ball hawks and they get turnovers. Yeah, that scares me. Especially if he takes Al Harris with them, which he may do, maybe not. We'll see how it works out. But that worries me a lot because that's really been what's running for Dallas. I don't think Dallas' defense is special. Dan Quinn's made them special, and Micah Parsons as well, of course. I wonder if that is a done deal there. But I think Cam said it earlier. I could see Seattle going with an offensive mind there, and I could see that. And Dan Quinn's going to have a lot of other offers, by the way. He's 4 teams want to interview with them, so he'll have other choices as well. I'm hoping Jerry decides, hey, there may be a salary cap on players, not on coaches. What do you want? I'll give you $10 million a year just to be defensive coordinator. And Jerry might do that. He's not afraid to do that, so we'll see if that happens. But that does worry me there. I think you made a great analogy about parents with kids. I know I've told my kids several times, sometimes I'm your friend, but there are times I got to be your parent as well. And it is a very hard, where's that line, that friend-parent line? I think coaching's the same way. Where's the same thing? Tomlin's, we've seen DeAndre Johnson all with Tomlin of late, right? It's been terrible what's going on in Pittsburgh. How are they not benched?
We remember former Seahawk players. Who was it, man? The jerk guy even said, he goes, man, it got to the point when Carroll would talk, we'd all put our headphones on and just nod like we were listening. And like they were saying, we've heard his speeches, and like the players would mock him and stuff when he'd leave the room, and they'd repeat, and they'd say, oh, well, I'll bet you this is going to be what he's going to tell us today, right? He'd come in with the raw stuff, but they're jerks because it could be a lot worse than a raw guy, right? And they actually won with it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, you want, and I think what Seattle, I think that's what Seattle's thinking. I think they're like, all right, you guys. Okay, we're going to bring in Dan Quinn to see if you F around with him, man.
You brought up the best
he ain't
point,
going to be
Morency.
clapping and chewing gum. Dan Quinn's going to be going, hey, get your ass over here, right?
You know what it is? Pete Carroll's like that substitute teacher that people are laughing after a while. It's just like, dude, you got nothing,
Well,
That's
you
what they
know,
are.
Cam, if
Inmates
you're a
running the
player, he's going to
asylum.
call you to the office, but what's he really going to do?
Exactly.
Come on, don't do
Not
that
much.
again, right? Like, what's he really going to do? Like,
he doesn't yell at you. He's just kind of okay. And know what? He's always been a guy.
Imagine if Harbaugh was your coach, you'd be thinking, "Oh man, I don't want to if you would have pissed off Harbaugh."
Exactly.
Like,
I'd be scared in Harbaugh's offense.
You're effing
right?
cut. I don't care who you are. You're off the team. Like he'd be losing.
True.
Like he's erratic. Carroll's like a nice guy. Carroll's going to get hired again, though. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't have thought was crazy talk, but there's so many jobs open. It's there's going to be musical chairs, and there's 7 jobs open, and there's not there's not a bunch of gurus or anything like that.
Yeah,
like there's not a bunch of coordinators in waiting. You can hype up the lying guy, whatever. He's got a good agent, this guy, evidently, for hyping his name as much. I'm calling it. Eric Bieniemy finally gets a job, though. Bieniemy gets a job this time.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about 2 franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, we got football fever. Georgia's Dallas Cowboys taking on the Green Bay Packers. We've had a lot of different opinions on this game. Some people think the Packers can win the game outright. They're going to pull an upset. They're going to get smashed. They're going to get destroyed. The game's going to go under. It's going to go over. People are all over the place here. I personally like the over of this football game. I think there will be points. I could see Dallas getting into the 30s and Green Bay getting into the high 20s type of deal. Man, it's hard to get in front of this, that the fact that Dallas Cowboys have won 16 consecutive home games. They're 8-0 this year. They've won by an average of 21 points. I don't need to tell this to George Kurtz. You're a Cowboy fan. But it is the playoffs right now. And it is Mike McCarthy versus Matt LaFleur. And Matt LaFleur is a little bit sharp. Like, LaFleur's a good coach, like a modern. And LaFleur's playing with house money. He won't get fired if he loses the game. They made the playoffs. It was been a success for Love. Like, this is a dangerous team, George, you're facing because of the fact that they've got nothing to lose, the Packers. They've already accomplished what they wanted to. They made the playoffs.
All right. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Cowboys win the game. I do think it goes over as well, and I'm with you on the score. I have 31-24, somewhere around there. I think the Cowboys will score. I think the Packers will score as well. I think the Packers likely cover the spread. I think it's a game where we're pretty sure throughout the game that Dallas is going to win, that they're sort of in control, but the Packers are there. I don't think McCarthy gets fired if the Cowboys lose unless they lose in a weird fashion. If Dak plays terrible and they lose like they have to the San Francisco 49ers the last couple of years, yeah. And if they lose at home, so help me.
Oh, it's going to be
ugly. They lose, you want to see me flip out? If they lose at home on Sunday night, I will flip out. All right, you've been waiting for this. This has been the whole excuse. Oh, we always play on the road. We lose. You lose at home. And this concludes next week, by the way, as well. You lose at home this week or next week, I will flip. This has to be the year they get to the championship game. It has to be that year. Has to.
I feel that way about Buffalo. They've got the path to two home playoff games before you have to go on the road for one. All right, we'll get Kurtz's best bets on the other side and the rest of the NFL.